Good morning, everyone. Hope you're okay. So my name is Calvin Campbell. I have sickle cell SS, and I'm a patient at UCH Hospital. And why I wanted to come along today to speak to you all is you're at the start of hopefully a really good career. And you've all joined for various reasons, different reasons, but you've all joined and wanted to become nurses to do good and to help people, and to make the world a better place. And nursing, any medical profession, is it's not like any other job. It's vocation. You're not just doing it to punch a clock or to earn money. If it was, you could go and do something else. But people often forget that once they get onto the wards, once they meet other members of staff, once they meet patients, and something changes. So this is why I wanted to come along today, to hopefully put something into your head to make sure that doesn't change. So you remember those things and why you want to do what you're doing. And it's strange that I say people change. As a patient and as a sickle cell patient, I can tell when someone comes onto the ward with a bad attitude. Let me explain that. So there's a certain look that nurses or doctors will get when you come onto the ward, and you can just tell as a patient that that person is going to bring all their problems from outside into work with them. They're going to forget that you're a person and that you're sick and that you're depending on them for your well-being and to be looked after and cared for. And people say, well, how can nurses forget that? But they do. Doctors forget it, nurses, they do forget it. And people say, but nurses and doctors are people too. You are. But when you come onto the ward, any problems you have in your private life, out in the world, it's nothing to do with me or any other patient. You're there to look after me and to others like me and to do the best job possible and to care for people and to show compassion. And I don't want you to lose that and become jaded and clocking. And you see people when they come into work and they just punch in and they sort of saunter into work and they don't have that, they lose that spring in their step. They lose that smile, or even just to say hi to a patient. They come along and they just take your meds, do your obs, and there's a disconnect. And you're thinking, oh, you're busy. But then could you imagine how the person in that bed feels? You're often at your lowest point, and you're looking to the person that's caring for you to have some compassion and to show that they actually care for you. Not to treat you just as another slab of meat sitting in a bed and then on to the next, on to the next. If you want to do that, do some other job. I don't care what the job is. Do something else. When you come into a caring profession, you should remember to always care, and to treat people the way you would want someone to treat you, the way you would want someone to treat someone you care about. In regards to say where people with sickle cell patients can be a difficult group of patients to look after, because one, we're in a lot of pain. We're in pain that you couldn't possibly imagine. The sickle cell crisis is akin to having every bone in your body broken, and then someone taking a baseball bat and continually beating you, then taking a hot poker and jamming that through your chest, then tell you to walk around the ward. That's what it's like. Most pains have a cut-off point. Sickle cell doesn't. It just gets worse and worse. So could you imagine if you're in that much pain, and you know the pain is just going to get worse, and you're relying on someone who's caring for you to actually care for you and to not just treat you as if you're a piece of meat. When someone says, oh, can I have something for the pain? Say, yeah. An hour later, you've not come back. They ask you again. An hour later, you've not come back. Then someone says, why has that patient got an attitude? Why do you think they've got an attitude? If I broke your leg and left you for a couple of hours, would you not have an attitude? Simple things like that. You just got to remember that you're looking after people and why you chose to do what you're doing. There's a passion. There's something about you that says you want to care. You don't just want to do any ordinary job. You're smart, intelligent people. You'll do anything that earns you loads of money, no hassle. You just sit at a desk, punch a clock, go home. You're good. Go on really good holidays. But you chose to do something where you're having to give up something of yourself every day. You're going to have to put something of yourself into that job every single day to be effective at your job, to be good at your job, so that the people at the other end know that you're good at your job and that you care about them. Even something simple as just asking someone how they're doing. Smiling. When you walk onto a smile. It doesn't cost you anything. You know, you may have had a bad morning. That's fine. That's okay. You're normal. That's human. But you should still smile, because it's not the patient's fault that you had a bad morning. You know, and with sick cell patients, we often get tagged as being in hospital for the drugs and being difficult, and you'll hear those things. You'll hear those things, and you'll pick up from other nurses and other people who become jaded, who have begun to treat their job just as a job. I don't want you to do that. I want you to always remember why you're doing what you're doing. Think for yourself. Make your own judgments. You know, look at somebody and say, there's a reason. There's always a reason why someone is the way they are. There's always a reason why, if a patient who's normally smiling is suddenly in a really bad mood and giving you a hard time, why is that person doing that? So don't forget those sorts of things. Don't just take the word of another member of staff who's been there for years, seen it all, done it all, got all the medals, and says, don't bother with that, just, you know. Is that the way you really want to do your job? Does that make you feel better when you go home and say, oh, I had a great day today? I just disrespected a whole load of people and got paid for it. I'm being honest. I said, you've taken time to come here today to listen to me. You didn't have to. You've done it because you care. You're caring people. You're people that want to make a difference in the world. And I want you to always remember that that's why you're doing what you're doing, and you started doing what you're doing because you want to make a difference. You want to be the best you can be at your job, and not just think of it as any other job. Not just think of it as something like I said, you can just punch a clock and what you do doesn't matter, because what you do does matter. When someone leaves hospital and they thank you for looking after them, it's the biggest buzz ever. Yeah. So with that, any questions? And you can ask me anything. Thank you.
As a nurse, I always want to extend great empathy to the patients that we look after. And I understand these interventions that we took to improve this tool their problems. But however, I find it difficult that it's hard to teach empathy. When I look after patients, I want to understand their pain or their struggle through the lens of your perspective. And how, from a patient perspective, how do I improve to a certain extent or expand my empathy, make you feel better while you're going through that treatment?
Probably the easiest way, I think, is to put yourself in their shoes, but not necessarily to become them, because that will make your job almost impossible over time. If you can't give up everything of yourself, but put yourself in their shoes. That if you were feeling that bad, if you were unwell, how would you want someone to approach you? Everybody has empathy, unless you're a sociopath. And if you were, you wouldn't be doing this job. So everybody has empathy. It's just that people lose it, lose that thing that they that spark, you know, that made you want to do what you do. That when you're sitting there looking at textbooks and you're thinking, yeah, I want to do this, it sounds really cool. And you almost imagine yourself saving someone's life and just helping people, even if it's someone helping someone go use a commode. Something as simple as that. And it's how you do it. You can do it where you just get a commode and you sort of say, plonk yourself there and walk off. You've done your job. Or you can help someone. You know, you help them sit in the commode and you ask them, are they okay? You ask them, do they need any help? To call out when they're finished. Simple things like that. And do it in a way that where, as if you're talking to a member of your own family. That is, something as simple as that makes a big difference. You don't just plonk the commode down, or if someone says, oh, can I have a bottle? You don't just sort of say, here you go, and disappear. You ask them if they're okay. Do they need anything else? Do they need any help? Because they may need help. But if you don't think to ask, they probably won't ask you. So that's how you keep your empathy. That's how you always remember that the people you're looking after are just like you, no different. The day before, they could have been out there running marathons, doing whatever. Today, they're in hospital, looking at you to make sure that they're okay. And they're probably, and especially if they're probably scared. There's a lot of fear in it. And fear makes people act differently. You know, if you see a group of patients and you get to know them over a while, over a period of time, especially say people like sick who spend a lot of time in and out of hospital, and you often hear, oh, you're different from when you're in hospital. Well, of course I am. I'm in hospital, I'm unwell, I'm sick. I can barely get my head off the pillow. You know? I haven't lost my sense of humor, I'm just really unwell. When you see me in the street, we can laugh, joke, go for a coffee, whatever. I'm the same person, I'm just unwell. And people forget that. So that's how you keep your empathy in that respect. Just remember who is, you're, like I said, if someone you loved, how would you want them to be treated? Anybody else?
As someone suffering with sickle cell, I wanted to know in terms of pain management and control throughout your hospital admissions, have you seen an improvement in how doctors or nurses manage pain in terms of medication that you get provided?
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Yes, and actually a yes and no. The improvements are in the types of drugs that are available now compared to when I was much younger, where it'd be really ineffective. So the problem with pain medication, it doesn't take away the pain. It takes the edge off it. Nothing takes away the pain. Absolutely nothing. And so when you give someone a pain medication and someone says, how can you still be in pain? The pain hasn't gone away, it's just taking the edge off, that sharpness. But I'm still in pain. Now there are different ways, morphine, diamorphine, pethidine. You can have, when you have the needle in your back, I can't try to remember the name of it. There's loads of different ways you can medicate someone. I've been in a hospital where I was so sick. I once spent 2 years, 8 months in hospital as an inpatient. 2 years of it without ever leaving the hospital. Spent 4 months of that in ITU. And I ended up with C2 paralysis as well. Woke up one day, couldn't feel anything from here down, nothing at all. But I was in unbelievable amount of pain. And I remember chuckling to myself one day, and one of the nurses said, why are you laughing? I said, I can't feel a thing, but I can feel, still in pain. How is that possible? That I can't actually feel anything, but I was still in that much pain. And the approach of pain medication, where doctors say, or nurses say, oh, if we give you this, you should be good for an hour. So if you're prescribed, say, morphine, hourly or 2 hourly, you should be good, and that's it. Like everything else, the pain does what it wants to do. Sometimes it's more effective than others. Sometimes it takes the edge off better than others. And there's other times where it does absolutely nothing. And then you have to remember, if you're coming in regularly and you're used to taking lots and lots of morphine, you build up a tolerance to it. So you can't look at someone who's taking morphine all their life and maybe every day and give them a particular dose and say that's going to be as effective as someone that's never taken morphine in their life, and you give them a small dose and they're out like a horse. It's out. It doesn't have that effect on me. I don't get high, it doesn't do anything. So pain medication, it has improved, but there's also other things you can do. Distraction therapy. And I don't think they do enough of that in hospital. So if I'm in pain at home, I won't just automatically reach. So I take gabapentin for nerve pain because I have ulcers on my feet, and morphine for sickle pain. So if I'm at home, I won't automatically reach for medication. I'll find other ways. Thinking, how can I deal with this pain without having to rely on drugs? Because it's to my benefit. So I'll distract myself, watch TV, play game. I'm a big gamer. So I'll play PC games, do anything, read, sing. Like I said, I'm in the choir, so I'll sing. And for me, singing is a great way to sort of get that pain out of me. You know, and I have to apologize to my neighbors because I'm really loud. and occasionally at 1 o'clock in the morning, the last thing you want to hear me doing is belting out "Rise Up," you know. Yeah, and you're trying to sleep, so I have to apologize. And I'm not sure my neighbor still believes me because I do it an awful lot. But in hospital, things like that can help. So if someone's in a lot of pain, and I know you're busy, and I know you've got lots of other people to look after, and we don't consider ourselves special, but doing things that can take their mind off the pain, not just sitting in a bed. Because the worst thing you can do to someone is give them something pain and just leave them just sitting there. No stimulation, no nothing. They're not talking to anybody, not doing anything. They may not want to do anything, but if there's distraction, even just simple as putting the TV on, things like that can help, because you're not just thinking about how the pain is making you feel or how much pain you're in. You're trying to distract yourself. And so I tend to do that a lot. Play with your phone, whatever. Even if you just ask them, you know, oh, what games you got on your phone, whatever, what you've been up to, any conversation. You know, if you spend 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes just talking to someone and they're engaging with you, for that 5-10 minutes, they're not concentrating on how bad they feel. They're concentrating on engaging with you. And that's cost you nothing. But what you've gained from it, you've helped someone deal with their pain or how they're feeling much better. And that works for any group of patient. You know, you often see elderly patients just plonked in the corner, curtains drawn and left. I think, why? Pull the curtains back. Let them talk to people. You talk to them. As you're doing your rounds, you walk around, you say hi, you may spend 5 minutes. I know you can't do it every day and with every patient, but if you at least try, that makes a big difference. Especially with people who have sickle cell, who, if I'm just lying in the bed, just thinking about nothing but pain, it intensifies how that pain feels, because that's all I'm thinking about. Does that make sense? Good question, brother.
So I need to ask you this. I don't know if you face it as a patient, but I come on the ward, I'm a newly qualified nurse, and I've been assigned as your nurse for the day. Possibly you come up with a question and I answer you. I don't know, but I'll find out for you. Does it affect your attitude towards me, especially in terms of confidence, looking after you?
Yeah, it does. It makes a big difference. The fact that you've introduced yourself and you've taken the time to engage with me makes a huge difference. Especially if I know you're going to be my nurse. Because I don't know how many times I've sat in a hospital and I haven't got a clue who my nurse is. Shifts will change and I haven't got a clue who my nurse is because they've not taken the time to introduce themselves. You know, even if they've come to give me something for pain, they still want to say, oh, by the way, my name is XYZ, I'm your nurse. And you often think, so, well, why not? If your job is to look after me and you've not even bothered to take the time to introduce yourself and say hi, but it makes a big difference. You know, the fact that you can say, hi, how are you? My name is so-and-so, I'm your nurse for today, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything you need? How are you feeling? Are you comfortable? Did you sleep well? Things like that.
No, I get that bit. I'm okay with that. But where I'm coming from is if you, at some point you ask me a question. Yeah. And I don't have an answer, and I possibly I'll find out. Yeah. Does that affect you as a patient? Yeah. Your attitude towards me, in terms of confidence. Do you have confidence? Even if I want to, in that I have to go somewhere to get an answer, and I don't have it.
No, that still gives me confidence because, like I said, you've made an effort, and that's the point. It's if I ask you a question and you say you don't know, you don't know. I'm not going to be upset that you don't know. But then if you say to me, you tell me that you'll find out, and if 1, 2, 3 hours go by and you haven't found out, and you see me, you say I haven't forgotten, because it happens. You're busy, and you say I haven't forgotten. I'm still going to find out. I'm okay with that. Because then at least I know that you're not just thinking of me just a space in a bit. You actually look at me as a person, and you're making an effort. You know, and I've been in that situation where I've asked someone a question, they didn't know, they said they'd find out the following day, and they've come back to me. And I've appreciated the fact that they've done that, because it meant that they've engaged and they actually care. The fact that they've thought about it and remembered. So they've come back to me the following day. Anyone else?
I was just wondering whether you've ever, prior to the admission, ever felt like you were worried that the nurses or the staff would have an unconscious bias towards you. And also, as someone with sickle cell disease, do you think there's stigma around the disease, and what's the biggest kind of misconception you want people to correct about it and about the patients?
Yeah, really good question. Okay, firstly, yes. You almost have to develop a war mentality. And it's just, you tell people this and say, what do you mean a war mentality? You do. You especially if you come in our hospital a lot, and people lose their empathy. They get used to seeing you, and they don't look at you as if someone that matters. They get, it's only that person. And like I said, and you can see that attitude coming. If I see 5 people come towards me and there's one person, I can spot that attitude a mile away. And I know for the rest of the shift, that person's gonna be a nightmare. They're gonna get my back up, and I will get their back up. And I know people have preconceived ideas about people with sickle cell, especially when it comes to the drugs, the morphine. And I don't forget the color of my skin. I've been called every name you can possibly think of by medical staff. I've had a doctor stand in the middle of a ward and call me a crackhead, just because I asked her to fill out a prescription. He actually called me an effing crackhead. Now, would she have done that with someone who had cancer? No. And there's a saying, pain is what the patient says it is. Unless you have sickle cell, then it's what the doctors say it is. If you mistreat someone with cancer, you get fired. You mistreat someone with sickle cell, no one bats an eyebrow. No one cares. I can fill in as many complaint forms as I want. Nothing gets done. And then people will then wonder why I come into a hospital with that war mentality, I said, and with a particular attitude. Because I'm not going to be disrespected. I'm not going to be treated as if I don't matter. I haven't treated you with disrespect, so I appreciate if you do the same to me. And one of the stigmas is the word disease. I actually don't like the word sickle cell illness, whatever you want, but the disease has a certain connotation. More with the wider public than with medical professions, I hope. But just using that term, disease, is something, you're in an infection, you're saying you can be caught. I can't be caught. You know, labeling someone a disease puts a certain stain on them. They're less than, because you're happy to say they're a disease. They're not an illness. They're not a condition. You know? A disease, you're infected. You must have done something to deserve this. And you get that attitude from people. And I get it from medical professionals, which always surprises me. And I say, and I actually will ask them, why did you do this job? They say, why are we doing this job? Why have you chosen to work in haematology, work with sicklers? Oh, it's fascinating. Well, then do your job properly. If you don't want to do this, you don't like looking after people like me, go and sweep the streets. I don't care. Well, working McDonald's, I don't care what you do. But don't come into work every day with an attitude. You know, I had a nurse once who was a strange kind of racist, and was openly talking about black people in the most derogatory terms you could possibly imagine, using the N-word like it was nothing. And said, oh, but not you, you're different. Well, how am I different? Oh, you're educated, you speak well. And I'm like, wow, but I'm black. Black. Just went over his head, and he didn't think there was anything wrong with it. So when I reported him and asked that he be fired, he had an issue with that. He said, what did I do? So, well, the fact that you kept using the N-word all day long was an issue. And he didn't think what he was doing was wrong. But then I wondered, why did he do his job? Why did he become a nurse? You surely couldn't have become a nurse thinking that all the people you're going to be dealing with are going to look like you. So why did he choose to do what he was doing? And if he came into the profession and he didn't have that attitude, what made him change? And it's subtle things like that where you're going to pick up of other people, or you're going to come with your own bigotries, whatever. I don't have a bigoted bone in my body. Not one. Zero. I have zero tolerance for it. Okay, I don't look at people and say, I see your race. Absolutely. But that's it. You're a person first. So I don't understand why other people can't be doing the same thing. And if as a medical profession you've got attitude to one person, but then you multiply it by all the people you're looking after with that attitude, especially a group of people that are going to be in and out of hospital an awful lot. Now you can see why we will get labelled as difficult, but no one ever says, well, why are they like that? Why do they tend to be more argumentative than other groups of patients who happily sit watching TV, sipping cups of tea all day? You know, if their medication is late, they're cool with it. If my medication is late, I have an issue with that because I'm in pain. And you're doing that to me every day. You're doing that to me every single time I come in and out of hospital, year in, year out. And then people are surprised that I'm supposed to be cool with that. Yeah, there was a couple of years ago, someone decided that, you know, they're going to put up signs about how you treat staff, you know, how be respectful, don't use violence towards staff. And they were going to put it up on the ward. But they decided to put it up over the beds of all the sickle cell patients. Just the sickle cell patients, no one else. I looked around and I'm like, okay. So I took it down. I went around and took them down. I said, why? I said, but you stuck it just over the heads of the sickle cell patients. Why? The nurse stood there looking at me as if like she had suddenly just lost the ability to speak English. So I asked her why. I said, be honest. Why would you print a sign like that and go around the entire ward and stick it over the beds of every single sickle cell patient on this ward and no one else? I said, because you think we're difficult. You know, if you're coming into work and you've got that attitude already, that means you're going to have an attitude and a bias to the way you treat me as a person. You don't see me as an equal. You don't see me as someone to be valued. So you think it's cool to put that sign up over my head. But no one else is. Even if someone's shouting and calling you every name under the sun. Does that answer the question? Anyone else?
Calvin, could I ask one final question, just because I'm aware of the time, but is there any sort of attributes that just for our new staff that you think would be like, I'd really love to see this? If I come into a hospital with my new nurses, anything else you would sort of give them as tips?
Yeah. Do you remember when you first started? The first day you started training to become a nurse, and you started uni, and how excited you were. You walked in and you had like that spring in your step, and as if you just won the lottery. It was just like the best feeling in the world. You couldn't wait to tell all your friends, your family were proud of you. And then the first time they said to you, you're gonna go onto the wards, and you're like nudging each other, giggling, and you're really excited. That is what I don't want you to lose. That feeling of excitement, that anticipation of looking forward to doing your job every day, that wanting to come into work. You know, even if you're 5 minutes late, you think, don't worry, I'll make up for it and I'm gonna have a brilliant day. Don't just sort of stroll onto the wards and look at a couple of sheets and sit down and play with your phone. You know, when the ward's a bit quiet, don't just sit at the nurse's station, yakking. Actually take the time to go and check on the patient. Ask someone how they're doing. Just, even if you want to strike up conversation, just sit and talk to someone. How many times I've been on the wards where, especially at night, and you see nurses or late in the evening, and they're all sitting at the nurse's station. And there's a group of patients, and you can just see like, I'm thinking, okay, why are you all just sitting there, amusing yourselves, and not interacting with the people you're supposed to be caring for? See, I don't want you to lose that. That's what I'm trying to get. I don't know if it makes sense. I don't want you to lose that sense of, yeah, this is the best feeling in the world. I want you to come into work every day as if like, this is your company and you own it, and you want to make it the best company possible, and you want to help others. You want to inspire others to be great. So if you see another nurse doing something, say, no, look, don't do it that way. Or if someone's telling you something that's, you know in the back of your mind, it's probably going to give you a jaded attitude towards people. Say thank you, but no thank you. I'll make up my own mind. That is what I don't want you to lose. The same way you're here now, the same way you're making notes, the same way you're keen, the same way you're excited to do your job. You can't wait to be qualified, get on that ward and like show the world, you know what, I am the best nurse this world has ever seen. Florence Nightingale come to life again. Don't ever lose that, seriously. That is your best quality. Do your job, do your job well. You know, patients understand that you're people. Well, most patients do. You're going to get the odd one that doesn't, and that's just life. But people understand. But what we don't understand is why come into the ward with the look and the attitude as if this is the last place on earth you want to be. Because then that affects the way you do your job. If you come onto that ward and people can see this is the last place that person would rather be anywhere else other than here, then you should be honest and say to yourself, why am I doing this job? Because I would rather you left the job than stick around for 10 years doing it badly and making other people's life miserable. I want you to enjoy your job. I want you to be fulfilled and be really happy. Like I said, get up, put your uniform, even if you're really tired. The second you put that uniform on, the second you step onto that ward, thinking, yeah, this is where I want to be. I'm going to make a difference today. Even if it's just a little thing. You know, I have a thing where I have to learn something every day. Every day. I have to learn something I didn't know the day before. Doesn't matter what it is. And I want you to be like that, where every day you get up and you just want to improve. You know, as a singer, I'm not happy with the fact that, you know, I can sing. I want to be better. So every time I get on stage, I want to blow people away. I want to see people smiling. I want people to leave feeling like, wow, that's, yeah. They're walking around with a smile on their face for the rest of the day. And I want you to have that kind of purpose and attitude and empathy, as you said, in your job. There's a reason you're doing it, and never forget the reason you wanted to do it. Because people forget that. They say, oh no, no, but you forget why you wanted to do it, and you start treating it as if it's just a job. You see someone at McDonald's, they're serving you a burger, they barely make eye contact with you. You know, they're like, yes sir, next. And they hand you a burger and they're looking at the other person behind you as they're handing you the burger. And you see that in staff. They're standing by your bed, talking to you, but looking at someone else and engaging with someone. I'm thinking, okay, how are you having a conversation with me and asking me how my day's going? And yet you're engaging with somebody on the other side of the room. I'd rather you didn't bother. Don't fake it, just go about your business. I'm being honest. So if you're going to talk to someone, talk to them. You know, look someone in the eye. You know, if someone asks you a question, like you said, if you don't know the answer, it's okay to say you don't know. But then if you say to the person, you'll find out, that's cool. And they make the effort to find out. You're welcome.
I don't envy anyone following you today with your session.
Thank you
So.
Oh, you're welcome.
so much.
Guys, we're gonna go to lunch in a minute.
Can I say one thing?
Oh, please, yeah.
I'd like to thank you all. Thank you for wanting to be the people you want to be, for wanting to be in a caring profession. Okay, I want to, in a strange way, if you bump into me on a ward and say, oh, I know you. You know, 10 years from now I say, and it happens, you know, and you're still loving what you're doing. So thank you for coming here today, and thank you for choosing to do what you do.